Hey, simplyRik here. Welcome to the channel. Recently, it's dawned on me just how easy and fast all of this technology has taken our creative workflows. That anyone with one of these can record video, drop it in an app, edit it, and push it out to the world. It made me think back to when I entered the world of audio and video production in what the cool kids are now referring to as the late 1900s. No Androids, iPhones, GoPros, internet, editing on computers with apps. Dear God, how did we ever survive? Here's a little known fact. I spent 5 of my 8 years in the Marines as a combat correspondent. And yes, that is a thing across all branches of the military. Now, my training with audio and video came at the Defense Information School, or what we call DINFOS. It was a great school, a lot of great instructors, learned to present, to breathe, to talk, to edit video, and deal with legacy technology for things like film chains. More on that if you want to Google film chain and see what that beast looks like. All of that led up to most of us who've gone through the school being now branded as DINFOS trained killers. At DINFOS, things were very different a long time ago. Let's just say it was a lot more hands-on and a lot more physical. Now, on any given shoot, for example, you had to pack what you needed for as long as you were going to be out throughout the day. Now, that included things like cameras, recorders, batteries, cables, lights, mics, and anything else you might need to sustain yourself as an independent producer out in the field by yourself. And on any day, I could be flying in helicopters or doing stories with tanks or you name it, but I had to ensure that everything I needed for the day was with me. Now, let's take a look at what becoming a creator back then was really like. Shooting, for example. Now, these were the old Sony DXC cameras. Let's just say these things were backbreakers and like carrying cinder blocks on your shoulders all day long. And the tapes, that the U-matic tapes that we used to use, were 3/4 inch. This is a VHS. It was similar in size, but probably that much thicker. And these 3/4 inch tapes did not go into the camera. They actually went into a recorder, which was a big machine that was on a strap on your side, and you had to tote batteries for that, as well as batteries for the camera, and it connected to the camera via a cable. Now, these tapes were put into that case, and you hit play and record, you throw the camera up on your shoulder, and you go for it. Now, on the upside, the weight between the recorder on one side of your shoulder and the camera on the other side of the shoulder did kind of make sure that your posture was always lined. The biggest celebrations I can remember having was actually when it was announced that we'd be getting the new Betacams. Now, Betacams were a completely different beast, although physically the size of the camera was relatively the same, but now you had these smaller tapes, and this is an actual Betacam SP tape that you would put directly in the camera. So you didn't have to carry around a second unit nor the batteries to support that thing. You had enough batteries for the camera, and the recorder was built into the camera, and we celebrated. So now you're done shooting all day. What do you do next? You head back to the station with your stand-ups, your B-roll, and you generally dump them all on a table. You pull up to this amazing piece of technology called the IBM Select 2, where we'd sit and hammer away at the keyboards with paper and actually write out our scripts, double-spaced, all caps, you name it, we had to do it. From there, it was under the audio booth or the radio studio to actually record the script onto tape. Scripting done, you head into the edit bay. The edit bay with your tapes, your audio tape, your A-roll, your B-roll, and you sit down and you've got 3 machines, 3 U-matic playback machines. There was the A deck, the B deck, and the recorder, all controlled by a nice big keyboard with jog wheels on it, and very physical. And to be honest with you, I love those things. The best part about those keyboards were actually the tactile feeling of being able to switch between playback decks and hitting that wheel and hearing that click, knowing that you were going to switch between shuttle and jog, and you could get really fast at doing edits. But it was always a back and forth, switching channels, A-roll, B-roll, audio tracks, and it was fun. Like it was a good way to learn how to compose the video and audio together to make really good pieces and solid pieces. Titles were a different story. We never did titles in the production booth. We always did them where we would hand it to the producer for the evening newscast, and then they would sit down pre-production, and actually build all of the titles for the entire newscast. Now you could, if you were doing a spot or a feature or something else, you could do titles in the edit bay, but it all involved spending a lot of time working on the Chiron superscribe machine and literally typing out all of your chirons for all the different shots and saving them onto a massive 12-inch floppy disk and recalling them and hope the whole system didn't just crash and you'd have to start all over again. So as you can tell, it was all very basic and very raw. Now in retrospect, it did one thing, and it gave you the idea of understanding that if you didn't really focus on the shooting and before you get to edit, then you're really into a nightmare, right? So if you didn't get a shot correctly, or if the audio didn't come out right while you were in the field, you can't go back and get it again. You really have to, you either scrap the whole story or you reschedule the whole thing for another day and go reshoot everything all over again. So there was a lot of no room for error, if you will. So while you're shooting, you really focused on things like composition, audio, lighting, and making sure that everything was tight before you even came into the studio or to the edit bay. And again, it was really all about composition, lighting, framing, where you were at, and getting it all nailed down. It saved a lot of time when you left the shoot and went into the edit bay. And in some cases, it's all very much the same today. Now, there was no concept back then of fixing it in edit. What you shot is what you got, and you worked with that, period. Today, you can shoot with all sorts of cameras and use things like iMovie, Final Cut, DaVinci, or even Premiere to tweak shot composition, color correct, edit some audio, distribute it, all push it out the door in a pretty quick fashion. So the workflow is a lot better today. I don't think many people can appreciate how easy it is today, or how flexible it is today, and how forgiving it is today. Because back then, literally, I can't tell you how many times I would shoot something, come back and find out that the batteries and the mics weren't on, the audio wasn't recorded, or the backlighting wasn't set correctly, or even worse, like the camera wasn't white balanced correctly, and you could not color correct after that. You're pretty much screwed and have to shoot all over again. So that's been really a quick look at where I started my 35-year journey. I can't believe it's been that long. But I guess the great thing to know and reflect on really is how frustrating things used to be that they're not today. Just remember this, it's often good to really think about how far you've come so you can realize how far you've gone. And really don't stress about it. Just do the best you can at every step of the process, and it'll fall together, and you can save time later making sure that you focus in the moment. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. That's it for me, so stay creative.